Before I launch my new moon in Libra video, I wanted to do a quick update featuring the astrology of Stephen Miller's speech at Charlie Kirk's memorial service. A lot of people have been comparing Stephen Miller's speech to one of Goebbels' speech from 1932 titled "The Storm is Coming," even going so far as to say he plagiarized it. I won't go into the content of the speeches here, but I'll link to the article comparing the speeches below this video. I was prompted to do a review of their charts not because of the specific speech comparison, but because I kept hearing repeated phrases around this idea that the giant is awakening. If you watched my new moon in Virgo video that kicked off the two eclipses, you'll remember me talking about how this new moon contained a preemptive strike meant to wake people up. The new moon in Virgo happened to be on Stephen Miller's birthday. He was born on what's called the cross of the sleeping phoenix. He had been on my radar at the time, but I didn't know how he would be involved. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction happens on the Pisces side of this cross, so I knew that this time period was an important turning point toward that conjunction. And if you follow the prophecies that were told by the creator of the human design system, you'll know that we are currently transitioning into a centuries-long cycle of the cross of the sleeping phoenix, which officially begins in 2027. When Charlie Kirk was assassinated, one of the first signatures I noticed in his chart was his Mars-Mercury-Pluto stellium in Scorpio, and I connected that right away to the upcoming new moon in Libra, which features a Mars-Mercury conjunction in Scorpio in the first house. I plan out my charts in advance, so that signature immediately popped out to me, along with his natal Venus at the eclipse degree. In fact, I thought he'd survived the shooting because I saw this signature in a future chart. But this specific phrase kept nagging at me because it reminded me so much of that new moon in Virgo message, so I decided to take a look at their charts in combination. I'm going to start with Stephen Miller's synastry with Charlie Kirk. You can see both have very similar signatures, with natal Mercury conjunct Mars squaring natal Saturn, but in different signs. Stephen Miller has a Mars conjunct Mercury in Leo, squaring his natal Saturn in Scorpio. He has a natural quick wit and dramatic flair to the way he speaks, which is anchored by the dark intensity of Saturn and Scorpio. As his speech showed, he can focus the tension inherent in this square by rallying a crowd against a common enemy. But Charlie was a much more powerful orator, with his Mars-Mercury-Pluto stellium in Scorpio squaring a Saturn in Aquarius. This signature is all about using the mind or words as a weapon to challenge societal constructs. Their signatures together create a grand cross, which includes Stephen Miller's nodes, with Charlie Kirk's Mars exactly conjunct his South Node in Scorpio. In evolutionary astrology, this Mars South Node speaks to a past life connection. A nodal connection involving Mars in Scorpio might indicate a past life that was also impacted by this kind of violence, and it might have been a flipped scenario where Stephen Miller was the target. Either way, this connection is very important to Stephen Miller's developmental journey. It is what you would call a milestone in his development of going toward his North Node, which happens more toward the Uranus opposition. So he's still very much in his South Node right now. And this event is going to be one of the important events in his life going forward. Okay, so let's add the chart of Paul Goebbels. And if you don't know who he was the chief propagandist of the Nazi Party. People have been comparing Stephen Miller to Paul Goebbels for a while, but this is the first speech where there has been such a crystal clear connection. You see how Paul Goebbels' Sun and Mercury in Scorpio straddles Stephen Miller's midheaven? And by the way, Stephen Miller's birth data is rated AA, so it's a solid chart to demonstrate this connection. This is how people see Paul Goebbels' presence shining through Stephen Miller in such a public way. Interestingly, he also has his Mars within 1 degree of Stephen Miller's South Node, so he too has a similar past life connection with Stephen Miller, one that promotes violent memories. Does Stephen have a past life in Nazi Germany, or did they meet in another war? I don't know the answer to that question, but these charts definitely demonstrate a shared connection between them. And it's a very important connection in Stephen Miller's nodal journey in this lifetime. Okay, so I'll be back soon with my new moon in Libra video. If you like my content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Every bit counts. Thanks. Bye.